and special for me. Like, I'm a fan of both of them, but a fan of, all the women on this tour. I think it's absolutely incredible. So it's special for myself. I've tried to practice as much as I can. I mean, I'm just the average golfer, gonna hit some good, gonna hit some bad. It is what it is. Just gonna try not to hit anyone standing outside the ropes, but it'll be fun. I'm excited for it.
Annika, how about you? You're playing with Caitlin tomorrow. So are you going to give her any pointers? Are you going?
Please.
Well, I'm sure she's going to get quite a few from Nelly. Nellie's going to be about power and hitting it long, which I you already said you're strong, so that'd be good. Maybe I have to come in there and maybe fine tune that part of it. But I like that plan. I mean, you're an athlete. You're used to crowds, and I'm sure you play better under pressure. So you might just step up. And I mean, I'm a senior golfer now, so I've been working a little bit of my game because I need it too. So, but it's all about having fun. We're playing with Dan over there.
Yes.
And so I think it's all about having fun and sharing experience.
She did what they never could. While the WNBA was mired in controversy and internal drama, Caitlin Clark was quietly making history on a different stage altogether. The same players who mocked her, the same veterans who gave her those cold, dismissive stares, the same league office that seemed to look the other way, they are all now watching in complete silence. This isn't just a sports story. This is a story of betrayal, jealousy, and the most legendary form of revenge imaginable. How did the most talked about rookie in decades become the league's greatest outsider? And what does her shocking success in a completely different sport reveal about the deep-seated problems tearing the WNBA apart from the inside? If you think you know the whole Caitlin Clark story, you are missing the most dramatic chapters. Stick around, because what you're about to hear will change everything you thought you knew about fame, revenge, and the game being played behind the scenes.
Why the WNBA? I mean, I will never understand. I feel like they fumbled so many things this season. They weren't ready for the moment. And this just proves that you can be ready for the moment. There is things that you can do. And I hope that they get it right next season. You have great players.
The arrival of Caitlin Clark in the WNBA was supposed to be a renaissance, a golden era ushered in by the most electrifying talent the women's game had ever seen. She wasn't just a player, she was a phenomenon, a cultural force who had single-handedly elevated collegiate basketball to must-see television, shattering viewership records that had stood for decades. Coming off a college career where she captivated a nation with her audacious logo threes and pinpoint passing, she brought with her a tidal wave of new fans, massive television deals, and merchandise sales that the league had only ever dreamed of. The Indiana Fever drafting her first overall was a moment of pure, unadulterated hope, a promise of a brighter, more profitable future for everyone involved.
Caitlin Clark's golf debut, and it is no fault of hers that I got upset. It is the fault of the WNBA, because the LPGA just did everything that the WNBA should have been doing this season. They did it all correct in literally one day.
But behind the celebratory press conferences and the glowing media features, a very different, much darker narrative was already taking shape. Almost from the moment she stepped on the court in preseason, the tone was set. It was dubbed rookie treatment, a time-honored, if controversial, tradition of hazing new players. But what unfolded felt far more personal, far more vicious, and far more targeted than simple initiation. Hard fouls that seemed excessive and designed to intimidate rather than compete. Shoves after the whistle, subtle trips, and a constant physical targeting that was broadcast to the entire world to see, sparking outrage among her legions of fans.
There you have it. The LPGA understand what's great for business. Not what's good for business, what's great. It'd be nice if the WNBA could get with the program. It'd be nice if you didn't allow your greatest asset to get beat up and hacked and fouled 94 feet and be targeted since day one of stepping into the league. It'd be nice. It'd be smart. You'd be better off, but you guys are going to do what you want to do.
And through it all, a disturbing silence from the very institutions that should have been her shield. Where were the veteran leaders to stand up for her, to demand clean play? Where was the league office to protect its golden goose, to enforce a standard that valued superstar safety? Rivals like Angel Reese, their collegiate history fueling a fiery competition, were often captured on camera smirking after particularly aggressive plays, images that went viral and poured gasoline on a growing fire. Established stars like Breanna Stewart, the face of the league, gave interviews that felt icy and detached, devoid of the warmth or welcome a generational talent transforming their sport might expect. The commissioner, Kathy Engelbert, a former CEO tasked with growing the business, seemed to be missing in action, offering little more than corporate platitudes, while her league's most significant star was taking a nightly beating. The message from within the league ecosystem was clear and crushing. She hadn't paid her dues in their eyes. She was an outsider, a threat to the established order, and she was not one of them.
History has taken the WNBA world by storm since she was the number 1 draft pick by the Indiana Fever in 2024. Goes on to talk about she was limited to 13 games.
But this was never just about basketball or tough rookie hazing. This was about something far more powerful, far more dangerous, and infinitely more difficult to control: raw human jealousy. Caitlin Clark didn't just bring otherworldly talent. She brought a media spotlight and a mainstream cultural relevance that was brighter and wider than anything the WNBA had ever experienced in its nearly 3-decade history. And in that unforgivingly bright light, some of the league's established stars saw their own accomplishments seemingly dim, their own shadows grow longer. Rumors swirled in sports media circles and on popular talk shows about palpable locker room tension. Whispers suggested that a faction of veterans was deeply resentful of the immediate attention and the massive marketing push surrounding the rookie, feeling that their years of grinding in relative obscurity were being unfairly overlooked. There was a pervasive narrative, subtly pushed by certain media personalities deeply embedded within the WNBA ecosystem, that she was overhyped, that her flashy, deep-range style of play wouldn't translate against tougher defenders, and even insidious suggestions that she was a creation of white privilege and media favoritism, a narrative that ignored her sheer, undeniable work ethic and skill. Every missed shot became a viral headline for her critics. Every loss was framed not as a team failure, but as definitive proof she couldn't handle the pros. The league itself seemed caught in a devastating paradox. They desperately needed her success for their bottom line. The soaring ticket prices, the sold-out arenas, the new jersey sales were all directly tied to her, but they seemed utterly unprepared and unwilling to handle the massive cultural and economic shift she represented. They allowed the hacking and fouling from 94 feet, as one prominent commentator bluntly put it, to continue unabated, a failure that could be interpreted either as a form of brutal, sanctioned initiation, or sheer, catastrophic failure of leadership. Major sponsors were pouring millions into the league specifically because of the Clark effect, but was that new, unequal influx of money creating an unspoken but toxic rift between her and her teammates? The atmosphere became so visibly toxic that even outside observers from the NBA and other sports began calling it out, publicly questioning the WNBA's fundamental business sense, asking why any organization will allow its greatest asset to be treated so poorly. The LPGA, they pointed out, would never make such a catastrophic, self-destructive mistake. With a star of that magnitude, the breaking point, therefore, felt both shocking and utterly inevitable. The constant, grinding physical and psychological pressure, the endless scrutiny, and the weight of being the league's protagonist and antagonist simultaneously took its toll. There were moments where she was visibly shaken, frustrations boiling over in rare, emotional post-game conferences. A specific, hard foul from Chicago Sky player Chindy Carter, a blatant cheap shot that was later upgraded to a flagrant one, became the defining image of the season. An unguarded strike that symbolized the lack of protection she received. A growing sense emerged that the immense weight of the entire league's future was on her shoulders alone, with no one in a fraternity of players willing to help her carry it. Then, in the midst of the grueling season, she briefly disappeared from the constant media cycle. It wasn't a long absence, but in the rapid-fire, hot-take ecosystem of modern sports, it felt significant and symbolic. The headlines quieted down. The critics assumed she was finally licking her wounds, that the constant barrage had broken her spirit. The prevailing narrative, pushed by her detractors, was that the WNBA had ultimately broken Caitlin Clark. They had proven their point that no individual was bigger than the league. But they had misread the situation entirely, a catastrophic miscalculation of her character. They thought she was down for count, retreating in defeat, but they failed to understand the core of a champion. She was simply preparing her next move, a move so unexpected, so audacious, that it completely bypassed the traditional basketball narrative altogether. While her detractors were still celebrating what they thought was their victory, Caitlin Clark was quietly stepping onto a different kind of court, one made of meticulously manicured grass and pristine white sand, a world where the only person you compete against is yourself and the course. The official announcement sent shockwaves through both the sports and social media worlds, creating a crossover event nobody had anticipated. Caitlin Clark was entering a Pro-Am golf tournament alongside the best female golfers on the planet on the LPGA Tour. The initial reaction from many in the basketball commentariat was disbelief, even mockery. Golf? Really? Was this a desperate cry for attention, a diversion from the struggles on hardwood? Was she running away from the physical competition that had proven too tough for her, seeking refuge in a less demanding sport? The same old critics emerged from the woodwork, loudly calling it a publicity stunt, a mere distraction from her perceived failures in the WNBA. But then, something incredible happened that silenced the doubters almost instantly. The video clips from her practice round started to surface across social media, and they didn't show an amateur hacker struggling to make contact. They showed a focused, determined, and natural athlete with surprisingly powerful, fluid, and polished swing. The contrast between her treatment in the WNBA and her reception in the golf world could not have been more stark. A masterclass in contrast. The LPGA, it seemed, immediately understood the assignment and the immense opportunity she presented. They rolled out the red carpet without a hint of resentment. They celebrated her presence as a boon for the entire sport of golf. Legends of the game like Nelly Korda welcomed her with open arms and genuine, admiring smiles, appearing genuinely impressed by her raw athletic ability and unshakable poise in a completely new environment. Insiders reported that even iconic figures like Tiger Woods and Michael Jordan, legends known for their mental fortitude, had taken notice, privately praising her incredible mental toughness for making such a bold crossover under immense public scrutiny. The LPGA, in a single brilliantly executed day, had done everything the WNBA had failed to do all season. They protected their guest star, they celebrated the immense buzz she created, and they operated with the intelligence to understand that her stardom was great for the entire sport, lifting all boats. It was a masterclass in capitalizing on a moment, and it made the WNBA's handling of Clark look utterly incompetent, petty, and strategically bankrupt by comparison. Then came the day that would rewrite the narrative for good, a day that transcended sports and became a lesson in quiet resilience. Caitlin Clark didn't just participate in the golf tournament, she dominated. Not through brute force, but with a precision and mental fortitude that left the entire sporting world in awe. The setting was a pristine, challenging course, a far cry from the roaring, often hostile basketball arenas she had grown accustomed to. As she walked on the first tee, there was no sneering opponent in her face, no hand checking her progress, just a vast, open fairway in the weight of immense, global curiosity. And with a calm confidence that belied the immense pressure, she proceeded to systematically shatter every low expectation set for her. It wasn't just a personal best. It was a headline-breaking, record-setting performance for a crossover athlete, a display so proficient it sent the sports world into a frenzy of disbelief and admiration. The first glimpse of her prowess came with her driver, a powerful, controlled swing that sent the ball soaring with a distance and accuracy that rivaled many of the tour's seasoned professionals. Commentators, who had initially prepared lighthearted banter for the basketball star trying golf, were left speechless, their scripts abandoned as they scrambled for superlatives. I've never seen anything like this from an athlete from another sport. One veteran analyst was heard stammering on the broadcast. The footage of world number one Nelly Korda, standing beside her, smiling in sheer disbelief and offering a genuine, impressed nod, became an instant iconic image. That single, unguarded reaction from a golfer at the absolute pinnacle of her sport said more than 1,000 press releases ever could. It was a silent validation from a true peer, a welcome that Clark had been systematically denied for months. Back on the social media front, the fans, both her loyal followers from basketball and a whole new audience captivated by the spectacle, erupted in a digital roar. She did it again, became the rallying cry across Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, a phrase that encapsulated her seemingly supernatural ability to rise to any occasion and silence her critics in the most dramatic fashion possible. Memes comparing the serene, successful golfer to beleaguered basketball rookie spread like wildfire, each one a tiny indictment of the environment she had left behind. But the most deafening sound of all, the one that truly defined the seismic shift of that day, came from the direction of the WNBA. It was a void, a profound and telling silence. No congratulatory tweets from Angel Reese, who is typically very active on social media. No public acknowledgement from Breanna Stewart, a player often positioned as a league leader. No official statement from the office of Commissioner Kathy Engelbert, who had frequently spoken about leveraging new moments of growth. The very individuals in the institution that had defined her rookie season as a story of struggle and hazing were now completely mute, confronted by a success story they couldn't control, diminish, or claim credit for. The league, which to many outsiders had once seemed to celebrate a culture of mediocrity and conformity over her unique, market-changing greatness, was now facing an undeniable and embarrassing truth. Caitlin Clark didn't need their validation, their platform, or their approval to shine. In fact, she shone far brighter without them. Behind the scenes, reports from sports business insiders suggested the panic was palpable. Major sponsors who had invested tens of millions into the WNBA specifically because of the Clark effect, the documented surge in ratings, ticket sales, and jersey revenue, were now asking pointed, uncomfortable questions in boardrooms. If this one athlete could generate this much positive press, this much organic engagement, and clearly this much potential revenue on a peaceful golf course, what was her real incentive to return to the constant drama, the physical punishment, and the perceived jealousy of the basketball court? The calculus had fundamentally changed. She had become more than a player. She was a standalone, transcendent brand, an avatar of empowerment and success. And that brand was now glowing brighter, more positively, and more profitably under the sunny, respectful skies of the LPGA than it ever had under the harsh, critical lights of the WNBA arena. This wasn't just a win. It was an escape and presented a future so limitless that it threatened to make the very league that drafted her obsolete in her personal narrative. The round of golf ended, but the message was heard around the world. True power isn't always about fighting the system. Sometimes it's about finding a new game where the rules are fair and you are celebrated for exactly who you are. In the end, Caitlin Clark achieved the ultimate revenge without saying a word. She made the WNBA's petty jealousies and internal conflicts look irrelevant. Angel Reese can still talk her trash on the court. Breanna Stewart can still post on social media. But none of it matters to Clark's new narrative. Her revenge wasn't loud or confrontational. It was legendary. She didn't break their records. She broke their pride. Every perfect swing of her golf club was an answer to every cheap shot. Every smile she shared with Nelly Korda was a rebuttal to every cold stare from a veteran. Every cheer from the golf gallery was a rejection of the hostile crowds. As she walked off the course, a reporter finally shouted the question everyone wanted to ask. What do you say to your haters? Caitlin Clark just looked into the camera, her expression calm and assured, and said softly, I don't compete to prove them wrong. I compete to prove myself right. In that single moment, she demonstrated a level of maturity and power that her detractors could scarcely comprehend. She didn't just break a golf record. She broke the entire cycle of hazing and jealousy. She broke the idea that she needed the WNBA's validation to be a success. The WNBA may never truly recover from this self-inflicted wound, from fumbling a moment that could define a generation of basketball. But Caitlin Clark, she has proven she can thrive anywhere. And for her, this isn't the end. It's just the beginning. If you believe that true success is the best revenge, hit that like button. Let us know in the comments what you think the WNBA should do next. And most importantly, subscribe because this story is far from over. The next chapter is going to be even more shocking.